You know, if you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltz Co. are the two guys that you really need to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind, and that is the Stoltz Co. difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It can function as a classic tool and work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They do not scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. Now, why don't you go to their website, stoltzco.com, that's STOLTZCO.com, and take a look at some of the examples of things they've done for other people. And I think you're going to realize very quickly this is not your grandpappy's pole barn. This is something new. This is something different. Then give them a call, 615-622-5992. Stoltz Co., where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. 615-622-5992. Learn more at stoltzco.com. That's stoltzco.com. Thirty-nine minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock, Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson, and this is The Drive for this beautiful Monday, October 23rd. Let's get you home safely. I understand that we were having some real problems out there in the area of 440 and 24 exit down toward Murfreesboro. And so, pack your patience if you have to deal with some of that. They had a truck that overturned, I think it was, and they're having some trouble cleaning up the load, but that's the thing that will get you. You're going around a curve too fast, man. Let's see what we got here. I want to talk about the shooting that occurred involving two officers from Laverne and the suspect, who turns out to be the estranged son of Nashville Police Chief John Drake. The officers, first of all, they're going to be okay, and that's the good news. Officers Ashley Bolijak was shot in the left shoulder. She was treated and released on Saturday. And then the other officer is Gregory Kern, shot in the right groin and right forearm, but has now remained hospitalized for a while in stable condition, but has now been released. So it looks like they're going to be okay. But this whole thing, it started out basically they were chasing what they thought was a stolen vehicle. It turned into a shootout, and then the police say the person allegedly responsible for the shooting is John C. Drake Jr., age 38, as I mentioned, the estranged son of Nashville's police chief. He stands accused of shooting the two police officers, according to AP. It's happened outside the Dollar General store in Laverne. He is still the subject of a manhunt. He has not been brought into custody, and people are being told to be aware that they consider him armed and extremely dangerous. The chief said that he hasn't been in his life, that they've been estranged for many, many years. He is a convicted felon, resorted to years of criminal activity. And the chief said he now needs to be found and held accountable for his action. The elder Drake grew up in working-class area of Nashville, where he credits several mentors, including coaches and neighbors, with helping him become a success. In a video made by the police department where he speaks about his early life, Drake said that as a young man, he could have gone either way. He said, I walked to school with 3 other kids, and all 3 of them wound up going to prison. So he said it's very difficult. He's making the case, to get on the wrong side of the law, and his son, did that after he became an adult. And I'm looking here from a story in WSMV's website where they outline it, the explainer, a brief criminal history of Nashville's police chief's son, except that it is not really all that brief. Metro Nashville Police Chief John Drake says he's shocked and deeply saddened. And he said, despite my efforts and guidance in the early teenage years, my son, now 38 years old, resorted to years of criminal activity and is a convicted felon, not been a part of my life for some time. According to the criminal court clerk from Davidson County, and this is only Davidson County, Drake Jr. has an extensive criminal history that dates back to 2005. Court records show he's been criminally charged 59 times in Davidson County since 2005. Charged with theft of $500 or less. He was arrested on October 1st, 2005. That case dismissed, according to records. In 2009, found guilty of aggravated rape of a lesser charge. They plea bargained that one. He's been found guilty of 3 different sex offenses, according to the record. October 29th of 2015, May 9th of 2019, May 22nd of 2020. He's been found guilty of the following charges: 6, domestic bodily injury, 2007. Aggravated burglary, resisting and evading arrest, 2007. Assault of domestic bodily injury and criminal impersonation, that was 2007. Wonder what that's all about. Possession of or casual exchange, that's 2015. And I mean that's an extensive record. He's had 59 encounters with the law since 2005. And some of these are violent. How is it that somebody can have 59 encounters with the law, many of them felonies, and yet they're still out on the street? How does that happen? How does that happen? This is the question I keep coming back to when I talk about the crime and the evil that is on Nashville streets these days. I mean, it is getting to be a nasty town, and it seems to me that although I like Chief Drake personally quite a bit. I don't know him well, but from what I know about him, I think he's a good man. I don't agree with his community policing ideas all the way. I think we need to be a lot more aggressive about taking violent offenders and getting them off the street. And this guy does qualify as a violent offender. And I don't know, I just don't understand how it is that in a community You can have 59 encounters with the law, and you don't spend a significant amount of time in the Gray Bar Hotel. How does that happen? How is it that you just continually plea bargain your way out of it, time after time after time after time after time? Did his name help him in some of those things? I wonder. That's a question. I mean, I don't know that Dad stepped up to help him. I'm not suggesting that, but you know, did the fact that he happens to share the same name as the police chief, it happens to be his son, did that come into play? I don't know. I don't have the answer to these questions. I would like to know more about it. The chief, understandably, has done the right thing, saying that he wants him to be brought in for questioning. He wants him to, if you know where he is, they say, please call, 911 and report him. He is considered dangerous, armed and extremely dangerous. So, the chief has made the right comments here. And I think it's, I don't think that it's fair to say that the sins of the father should be visited upon the son, just as I don't think that the son's sin should be visited upon the father. I really don't. If he worked hard while he had some input into that child's life, that's about all you can do. When they become adults, they become adults. And after that, they're on their own. But I am very baffled, I guess is the only word. How is it that you get 59 encounters with the law, many of them felonies, and you never seriously do any real time that keeps you off the street? If he did time, I'd like to know more about it. But I don't see any evidence of that. Just the convictions is what we have. According to this other story, this is Fox 17, sort of drills down on the part that says he's a sex offender, a registered sex offender. And that three different occasions, what it says. So again, how does somebody who's a registered sex offender, who has 3 of those kinds of charges against him, how in the world does that person skate? How does that person get out? How does that person go back on the streets? It seems to me that, again, I come back to the conclusion that in Nashville, in Davidson County, we have a situation where they plea bargain and plea bargain and plea bargain. They don't take people to trial. If they do take them to trial, they either don't get convictions or they are pled down to a lesser charge just to get the things off the books. It's time to start taking these things to trial, going for the maximum penalties, and putting people away. It's the only thing that will make our streets safe. And I'm saddened for the chief, and I am saddened for the situation that he now finds himself in with a son who has clearly gone awry. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to crack down on violent crime in Davidson County. And by the way, the records that I just read you, only from Davidson County. There may be other records in other counties that are not in this story. Just saying, it's at least 59 encounters with police. At least 59 encounters. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Let me tell you about Legend Steakhouse. Listen, if you're thinking about going out to eat tonight on the way home, you could do well to just go to a Legend Steakhouse, get one of Johnny Fleeman's tasty steaks. That sounds good, doesn't it? But he wants you to think about him at lunch as well. They have a meat and two situation going on with 1 meat, 2 country cooked vegetables or casseroles. Here are the main course. Fried pork chops. Ooh. Smoky mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow cooked pot roast with gravy. And the sides, really, in a meat and two, it's really about the sides. We got a bunch of good stuff here. Broccoli casserole, turnip greens, bourbon glazed apples, fried green tomatoes, potato casseroles, black-eyed peas, just to name a few. These are good home cooking dishes that were actually recipes that came from Johnny's mom, but he borrowed the recipe book about 30 years ago and he never returned it. Legend Steakhouse, multiple locations across Middle Tennessee. The whole idea here is good food at a fair price. So go to legendsteakhouse.com to learn about the locations or to maybe make an order online. A local Tennessee company that's been in business for 34 years. You're going to love your next visit to Legend Steakhouse.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've had a financial radio show on WTN for over 20 years. But before that, for about the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a big investment firm. The name of the game was selling and getting assets under management. Then I was introduced to evidence-based investing, driven by academic research and not the sales process. Two big revelations. One was that investing in the stock market wasn't a gambling adventure. I had never thought about it that way. Think about when we invest, you're just gambling your money away and just throwing it into the casino. Well, investing in stocks is really just owning companies. And you think about some of the most successful people in the world are business owners, and you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. It allows you to be part owner of the most successful companies in the world. The second had to do with how you were investing in those companies. In my former role, I was taught that my job was to use my skills to predict the future. Oh, crystal ball, what stocks or market segments are going to do best in the near future? If you listen to investing news sources and investment advisors, you'll find that making predictions is the rule rather than the exception. One recent study shows that 93% of professional managers underperformed the market over the past 15 years in their selection of large U.S. stocks. And it was over 95% that underperformed with small companies. Did you know that you could be tremendously successful as an investor without predicting the future? I believe the first step is education. However, it can't be just any education. We will help you understand what you're doing with your investments, why you're doing it, and what the basics are behind how things work. Then we make recommendations. I want you to be completely confident before you do anything. If that sounds like a winning game plan, set up a free 15-minute phone call at any of our 10 offices around Nashville. Go to paulwinkler.com to schedule a call today.
We know more now about the man at the center of a statewide manhunt, a scary moment in the skies out west, and an update on the Israel-Hamas war. Those stories coming up on Super Talk 99 WTN.
Yeah, that story about the pilot. Oh my gosh! If you haven't heard it, stay tuned for the news because it's an eye opener. I'll tell you for sure. Looking at the markets very quickly, Dow Jones Industrial Average down 190 points today. S&P down 7. NASDAQ is up 34, so mixed boards today. And I guess really a lot of people are taking a close look at what the bond market is doing these days. Standing by with more on that from Beacon Capital Management is John Maxon. Hello, John.
Hello, Brian. Happy Monday. Yeah, the market started down almost 1% on the S&P today, and really there was a unique experience. The 10-year Treasury actually crossed the 5% mark. That's the first time that's happened since 2007. Bond yields came down a little bit by the end of the day, which is why the market pulled back to about 4%. But again, it's this message of higher rates for a longer period of time that not only impacts equities, but it also impacts mortgages and things of that nature. So the market is a little bit confused on that. What's really looking forward to this week, though, is we've got a lot of big tech companies reporting earnings, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and that's really going to help with the direction one way or another. So something to watch as the week goes on.
All right. Thank you much, John. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by going to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. And speaking of the aforementioned Beacon Capital Management, a question for you. How are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. It might be a small thing, and really it could be just a minor thing. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide that reassurance. Now, it starts with a phone call. Here's the number, 615-488-9303. You will provide some information for the folks at Beacon, and they will get back to you. I mean, you have nothing to lose here except for all the worry. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. One more time, here's that number. Write it down, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm John Michael with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, we are learning about the lengthy criminal record of the suspect from Saturday's officer-involved shooting in Laverne. Court records show that John Drake Jr. has previously faced close to 60 different criminal charges between 1999 and 2022. At least 20 of those are convictions, including rape and violations of his sex offender registration. Channel 4's Ryan Breslin says John Drake Jr. is the son of the police chief in Nashville.
Metro Police Chief John Drake also says that his thoughts and prayers are with those two officers. He says that his estranged son turned to crime many years ago, is a convicted felon, and also adds that he has not been a part of his life in many years. TBI says John Drake Jr. should be considered armed and dangerous at this time.
On Saturday, October 21st, Drake Jr. reportedly added to that list of charges after opening fire at two Laverne police officers. The officers shot Ashley Boylejak and Craig Kern are both out of the hospital and recovering at home. Scary moments in the midair.
The threat is now in the back of the airplane, so we're reduced on the threat level. We're going to check in with the flight attendant to make sure everything is running smoothly, but it seems like he settled down as soon as he, after one moment of going a little bit overboard, we put him back.
An off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot made some comment about "I'm not right" and then lunged and tried to pull the fire extinguisher buttons in the cockpit of an Alaska Airlines flight to San Francisco. Had he succeeded, it would have killed the engines. The flight had an emergency landing in Portland, Oregon. The pilot is now under arrest. 80-something charges for everybody who was on board that flight. Election 2024, former President Trump has declared his candidacy in New Hampshire's 2024 presidential primary. Trump is set to hold a campaign rally this afternoon in Derry, New Hampshire. Several of Trump's Republican rivals have already filed there. Israel-Hamas war continuing coverage.
The White House says it's working around the clock for the release of U.S. citizens held by Hamas.
We still have about 10 unaccounted for Americans, and it's not exactly clear to us where those 10 people are.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby.
There's just a lot of effort going on, a lot of conversations and discussions with partners in the region, and I think it's just best if we don't detail that.
A mother and daughter from the Chicago area who were held by Hamas were released last week, but ABC's Matt Gutman in Tel Aviv says more members of their family are still being held.
13 members of that single family were either killed or kidnapped, and in so many ways that one family is still being held captive by Hamas, fearful that if they reveal any details about the conditions under which their released family members were held, their captors could take vengeance on the family members still under Hamas's control.
That was Daria Albinger reporting, and reports say there are 2 more hostages that have been released by Hamas. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
The White House says it.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and this is The Drive for the 23rd day of October. A lot of breaking news. Hamas has released 2 more hostages. They are Israeli citizens, and they seem to be in pretty good shape. But the ground war has not yet started. And then on the political side here, closer to home, we still don't have a Speaker of the House. Members are supposed to arrive in Washington late this afternoon, go into a conference. Republicans will then try to sort through the 9 different people who have decided they're going to throw their names into the ring, and how that all gets resolved is anybody's guess. I want to start a new segment today, and I'm toying around with the title of this segment, but I mean, I'm gonna try this once, and if I get a memo about it or something like that, I'll change it. But I'm gonna call it News That Will Piss You Off. I mean,
all right.
Honestly, when something makes you angry, what do you say? You say that just, that pisses me off. And I don't particularly like that phrase, but it really most aptly describes what happens when I read stories like this. It makes you mad, makes you angry, hacks you off. You get teed off. What's another way I could say it? I don't know. I'm running out of ideas.
Ticked off.
Ticked off, yeah. Teed off.
Miffed.
Miffed, yes. Maybe that's it. News that will miff you. Well, anyway, let's just jump into it, and we'll figure out the title as we. If you have an idea, just send it to the super text line. We'll consider all submissions. But this is news that will actually hack you off. Here's one that since October 1st, which is we're at October 23rd. See, in the federal government, the fiscal years run October 1 to October 1. So you got October 1, you've had 23 days, and we have 23,000 known gotaways that have come across our southern border here in America. And I mean, that's a shocking number. 1,000 a day. People that came across the border never had any contact whatsoever with law enforcement. And here's the stuff that really, really will hack you off. We don't know who these people are. We don't know what they're up to, but federal officials are now warning that members of Hamas, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Hezbollah could be crossing through our southern border. This according to an internal October 20th memo obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation. The San Diego Field Office Intelligence Division of Customs and Border Protection sent the memo warning that due to the war between Israel and Hamas, there could be encounters of terror-tied individuals who are seeking to travel to or from the Middle East and transit across the southern border to America. And Hamas, PIJ, and Hezbollah, all of which are designated terrorist organizations, have been committing attacks on Israel. And it's entirely possible that numbers of these groups are trying to get across our southern border and into America. Foreign fighters motivated by ideology or mercenary soldiers of fortune may attempt to obfuscate travel to or from the U.S. or from other countries in the Middle East through Mexico. How about that? Who would have thought that, somebody that doesn't have our best interest at heart would somehow make their way across the border because of the chaos that ensues down there with the Biden policies on the southern border. I mean, if only somebody had been raising this flag, if somebody had only been saying, we better watch out for that. Wish somebody had been doing that. I wish somebody had listened. I mean, there's been somebody doing that. I don't think anybody in Washington listens. Amid record illegal immigration at the southern border, we have a major influx of encounters of individuals whose name appear on the terror watch list. 172 in fiscal year 2023. That's up from 98 the previous year. And the latest warning of possible terrorist encounters says federal border authorities should look for indicators that include seeing military-age males, military gear, lone travelers and ties to the region, ties to the Middle East region. They list several questions of interest, such as questions related to individuals' personal or familial association with Hamas, Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Popular Front of the Liberation of Palestine, or other similar groups. And you know what? They are coming in. Let's just be honest about it. They are coming in, and you know it, and I know it, and they know it, and it's not. This is scary that folks who are coming across that border, all right, since the first of this month, 23,000 who never had any contact with police as they came across the southern border. The known gotaways, that doesn't include the unknown gotaways. And it doesn't include people who may have passed screening, but, were able to obfuscate their true identity. I'm telling you, it's enough to piss you off. Hence the name of this segment. Are we getting any good ideas?
We've gotten quite a few creative ones, yeah.
Well, hit me with a couple.
News that grinds your gears. That's all right. News that hacks you off. News that will set your hair on fire. Let's see. Last straw news. My favorite so far has got to be news that chaps my ass.
I'm not sure that's that's an improvement over the working title.
Yeah. But it's
all right. Well, we'll continue. Here's other news that will hack you off. The CDC asked youngsters if they question their gender identity in a tobacco use survey. Well, what in the world is this all about? The Biden administration's National Tobacco Youth Survey for 2023 asked middle and high school students to disclose their sexual orientation and ask whether or not they are questioning their gender identity. Well, what the hell does that matter when you're trying to find out whether kids are smoking or not? The survey is distributed annually by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Office on Smoking and Health to gauge the progress of comprehensive tobacco prevention and control programs for youth in the U.S., according to the CDC website. In 2020, changes were made to include a question asking if students identified as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or something else, according to documents from the White House Office of Management and Budget. And the latest survey goes even further, asking students about transgenderism and whether they feel alignment with their biological sex. It's none of your dadgum business. I mean, if I were a parent of a student and they came home with this survey or I heard about it, I would be outraged. It's none of your dang business. And why are you poking around in this area when you're supposed to be asking about a student's potential use of tobacco? I mean, come on. Some people, this is the question, some people describe themselves as transgender and or non-binary when they think or feel about their gender is different from their sex assigned at birth. Do you identify as transgendered or non-binary? I'm stunned. What in the world does that have to do with the price of bread? And first of all, just quit asking my kids questions, all right? Just in general, I don't need the government peppering my kids with a bunch of nonsense questions. Insane. Vanderbilt University Medical Center has a woke scientist who supports Palestinian liberation by any means necessary. A microbiologist at Vanderbilt University Medical Center, known as a woke scientist on her Instagram account, took to her social media page to defend Hamas for the terrorist network's barbaric attacks on Israelis. Dr. Ayesha Khan, a VUMC resident and clinical fellow in microbiology in the Department of Pathology, Microbiology, and Immunology, described on her Instagram page that a ceasefire is not enough. She demands an end to the settler colonial occupation of Palestine and an end to the siege of Gaza, an end to the occupation. If you care about social justice, equity, liberation in any form, then support the Palestinian push for total liberation by any means necessary, the woke microbiologist wrote. The oppressed deserve to resist their oppressors. This story from the Tennessee Star, and they actually have the first picked up by the libs of TikTok, spotted up her posting. She appears to remain employed at VUMC, and I think the university has refused to make any comment about that. Joe Biden missed his chance to fill up the oil reserve. We raided the oil reserve so that we could, so that Democrats could get reelected in the midterm elections. In other words, they took oil out of the oil reserve, not because it was an emergency, but because they didn't want the price of gasoline to go up in the midterm elections. And so they drained about half of it, out and glutted the artificially inflated the amount of oil on the market so that the prices would remain relatively low during the midterm elections. This was for political purposes only. According to Reuters, the Biden administration seeks to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for $79 a barrel or less. It's worth noting that there was a time when the petroleum reserve could have been refilled at a lower price, but Biden decided against it. The president should have refilled the America's oil when it was only $70 a barrel. It's now hovering around $90 a barrel. If you looked at oil prices 3 weeks ago, they were talking about energy prices to come down 10% in 10 days. And why didn't he take advantage of it? We now have the lowest level in our strategic petroleum reserve that we've had in 40 years. I think I read somewhere that if we had to actually use that, if we had to count on that, it would supply America with the oil needs for only 17 days as it stands now. They need to refill it, but they missed their opportunity. You know why? Because he hates oil. He didn't want to get blowback from the greenies who said, no. Don't fill it back up. In the meantime, he puts our national security at risk for political purposes, for very, very, absolute self-serving reasons, and now we find ourselves with half a petroleum reserve, and prices have gone back up. That hacks me off. It chaps my butt. I like that one. Can we say that?
Yeah, you can say
News that chaps your butt.
Yeah. Or hide. Chaps your hide.
It chaps my hide. That
burns your biscuits.
I don't know. We'll work on it. Again, all submissions are deeply appreciated. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let's talk about Busy Bee. And, we have these cool evenings now where you need your heater sometimes, and then it gets, pretty warm during the day. You might even need a little AC. I'm telling you, if either one of those things is not working correctly, pick up the phone and call this number, 615-775-7833. That's the number for Busy Bee, and they will buzz over to your hive, and they'll fix your problem. If it's plumbing problem, if it's an air conditioning problem, it's a heating problem, they've got the people who can get you back up and going in very short order. You might want to do some preventative maintenance, and for that, a little thing they call the Beehive Club starts for as little as $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. Never any overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner, so for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833. That's 615-775-7833. Online at busybehvac.com.
I wanted to touch on the history of Tethered and kind of how it came about.
There was a handful of us that were already using similar equipment. At the time, however, you couldn't just go to the store and buy saddle equipment. It just didn't exist. Selfishly, we just were making gear that nobody else would make for us and that we wanted ourselves. And our goal was just to make enough to break even. Fortunately for everybody involved, it took off. It's got an appeal. People really liked it.
When you think of a saddle, that's what I think of. That's the first name that I think of when I hear about a saddle.
For me, the reason I got into it was I'm hunting public land, and most of the time I'm going pretty deep. Being lightweight and mobile was huge. I walk in with a pack and my bow. That's it. The more I did it, I was like, man, there's so many features here that are helping me improve as a hunter, where I can take different shot angles and stuff. And I'm going to tell you, I feel safe with this rope all the time.
Yeah.
From the ground up, I'm hooked in. If I fall off this thing, I'm just going to swing a little bit. And I think the learning curve is small. It's just about getting comfortable with your equipment. It's the biggest thing. And for me, it's repetition and then fine-tuning that to meet my needs. And that's the cool thing. What I like and what might meet my needs might be a little different from you. And even though we're doing the same thing, you can tweak it to meet your needs. And I really like that aspect about it.
But we've done a really good job of just innovating and creating products that don't exist. You're seeing the growth of the sport. You're seeing the innovation. And you're seeing all of these cool things that we make, and it's because we actually use it.
Police involved shooting has a lengthy criminal record, and we'll also have the latest from Wall Street. That's coming up on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 25 past the hour now of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. So we got another one. News that roasts your rump.
Yeah. You like that?
Well, there's nothing more tasty than a good rump roast. Some potatoes, carrots, a little gravy, mashed potatoes, maybe.
Not bad. I don't think that's the rump they're talking about.
I don't think they're
roasting, though.
Chaps my you-know-what. And then, then probably what we need to do, we'll do that segment. We're going to do it again. We'll come up with the right term that is both apt description but not offensive. That we're going to try to find the right balance of that thing. And then because it does, these are our stories that just sort of make you angry. Rather than pound the dashboard or tighten the grip on your steering wheel, we'll have moments where we do the cleansing, deep cleansing breaths so that we can all relax, And we'll do that. That'll be what we do.
That'll make it all better.
You didn't know that I had a record player hidden, did you?
Yeah, I didn't know you could hook the turntable up to that.
No, I got a record player. That
one's going to be no good now.
I know. Now I got to go get a new copy of that one. All right. Well, it's funny. By the way, have you ever thought about this? How many times have you bought certain albums simply because of a format change?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So you bought it on vinyl years ago, maybe. And then 8 tracks came along. So you wanted to be able to play it in your car. So you bought the 8 track. And then people quit doing 8 tracks. They turned over to cassette. So you got the cassette.
Yeah.
And then that went away, and they said, well, now you don't need to do that. Put it on your iPod. So you buy it, and you download it on your iPod. And now we've come full circle because now we're buying vinyl again.
You skipped one, though. You left CDs out.
CDs, right, of course, CDs. They followed after the – yeah, I was one of the first people to buy one of those portable CD players. I got one for Christmas, and I got on the plane to go back home. And I mean to tell you, people were in awe of that little thing that I had sitting there and playing my CDs.
Thought you were from the future.
They said, wow, what is that? I've never seen such a cool thing. Now you get a new car. It doesn't even have a CD player in it.
Yep. Not at all.
I have bought certain albums, I'm pretty sure, 6 times. 6 or 7 times.
Well, I mean, you got to have the latest.
I guess. But then we go right back to what we had at the very beginning.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
And you know what? It sounds good. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about what's happening in Israel right now. The president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, has confirmed to Axios that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, found a USB and one of those USB keys that had instructions for producing a cyanide dispersion device. It was found on the body of a Hamas operative who participated in the October 7th terrorist attack. That is very scary. Herzog's comments in an interview with Sky News are part of a wider Israeli diplomatic effort to mobilize support in the West for the Israeli operation against Hamas. This is how shocking the situation is where we're looking at the instructions that are given on how to operate and how to create a kind of non-professional chemical weapon with cyanide. Axios reported on Saturday that the Israeli Foreign Ministry's Weapon of Mass Destruction Non-Proliferation Department sent a classified cable to Israeli embassies in dozens of capitals worldwide, including Washington, under the headline, Hamas's intention of using chemical weapons. It is not clear from the file whether Hamas had any serious or operational plans for making makeshift chemical weapons. Well, look, if the idea is to annihilate, anybody in Israel, then you wouldn't be surprised. They've not shown a penchant for restraint. Let's put it that way. Speaking to Sky News, Herzog showed printouts of the digital files. He showed the instructions were part of an Al-Qaeda manual and presented a drawing of the makeshift cyanide dispersion device that was on file. A Hamas spokesperson did not respond for comment. As if our situation isn't a little more dicey we have 2 carrier strike groups, one that's already there, the Gerald Ford, the other, the Dwight Eisenhower, making its way. We're going to have a lot of ships out there in the Mediterranean, and they're going to be operating. And the main goal of having our ships there is not necessarily to get involved in the wider war, but sort of ask as a buffer from other countries and sort of warn them, hey, we will not stand idly by if you try to widen this war or take advantage of the situation. It's a message to Iran. It's a message to Jordan. It's a message to the folks in Libya and Hezbollah there, in Syria, etc. And so amid all of the ships that are out there that are going to be in the Mediterranean involved from the United States, the Chinese have decided to send 6 warships to the region. They have deployed its 44th Naval Escort Task Force. This is from the People's Liberation Army, Eastern Theater. The Chinese warship left Muscat for an unspecified location on Saturday after participating in an exercise with the Omani Navy. I didn't know Oman had a navy. They got a guided missile destroyer, a frigate, and a supply ship, all of which will be stationed in the Mideast as Israel continues to prepare for the ground invasion of Gaza. I don't like this. I mean, I think, they're entitled to go. If we say we're going to sail through the South China Sea and we believe in free passage and international waters, not much we can say about it. Certainly, we take advantage of that rule, international maritime rules all the time. So we can't really say that they shouldn't. Boy, I tell you what, I don't like the idea of two battle groups, Air Force airstrike combat air groups, and from the U.S., and then let's throw in 6 Middle East warships just for good measure. The Defense Secretary has issued more prepare-to-deploy orders for U.S. troops. I'll just cut this very short by saying this is telling people to get ready to deploy in case they are needed. 32 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock.
It's 4:33, and I'm John Michael with your top stories. A full forecast and the latest traffic report are on the way in 5 minutes. For the latest on Israel and Hamas, here's Daria Albinger.
The White House says it will do all that it can to help Israel secure the release of more than 200 hostages that Hamas is now believed to be holding. But how far would the U.S. government go to do that?
President Biden was asked Monday if the U.S. is supporting a hostages for a ceasefire deal.
We should have those hostages released, and then we can talk.
But a hostages for a ceasefire deal is not something that's gotten a lot of attention from the Biden administration. When National Security spokesman John Kirby was asked earlier Monday if the U.S. would join some international leaders in calling for a humanitarian ceasefire, Kirby seemed to shoot down the idea.
What we want right now is make sure Israel has the tools it needs to defend itself and to go after Hamas, and that humanitarian assistance keeps flowing.
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Today, Hamas announced that it was releasing 2 elderly women that it was holding hostage. The Israeli Hostage Center says they were turned over to the Red Cross at the Rafah crossing, which links Egypt to Gaza.
White House officials repeated their warning to any others looking to get involved. The suspect from Saturday's officer-involved shooting in Laverne has a long criminal record. Court records show that John Drake Jr. had previously faced close to 60 different criminal charges between 1999 and 2022. Money News, here once again, Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks wobbled to a mixed close to start the week. The Dow plunged 191 points. The Nasdaq rose 35 and the S&P gave up 7. It's a big week for earnings among the companies we expect to hear from. Some tech giants, including Facebook's parent company, Meta, Google's parent, Alphabet, and Amazon. Chevron is buying Hess Corporation for $53 billion. It's the second buyout among major oil producers this month. As prices surged, and it comes less than 2 weeks after ExxonMobil said it would acquire Pioneer Natural Resources for about $60 billion. Crude prices are up 9% this year. They're hovering at about $90 a barrel. The United Auto Workers strike against the Big Three is getting bigger. The union now says about 40,000 workers are walking the picket lines now that it's added a plant in Sterling Heights, Michigan, which makes Ram pickups for Stellantis.
Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
It is 37 minutes after the hour. Simple question from the folks over at King Insurance. Do you have a replacement cost coverage policy for your roof? If the answer is not yes, then you don't. That means the insurance company will depreciate how much they pay for your roof claim, and that could potentially leave you thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket expenses. They can help with this. I mean, King & Associates Insurance in Brentwood has been around for some 25 years as an independent agency. They know to ask questions like this. And I think there are a lot of advantages to having an independent agency. Number one is great customer service. If you call this number, 615-329-8121, you're not going to get a call tree. You're not going to get a phone tree. You're not going to get one of those recordings saying your call is important to them. You'll actually get a human being who will answer the phone and direct you to someone who can help you with your needs. How about that? That's different, isn't it? And the other thing is they can pick and choose from a whole bunch of different policies. They don't have to take one that they sell and try to take that square peg and force it into your round hole. They can actually find something that will actually meet your needs at a good price. Better coverage is what you're getting and all of that. Multi-policy discounts, 20 to 35%, huge savings. 20, 25, 30, 35%. Oh, if you bundle, there's a lot of money to be saved there, and they can help you with that. If you get your royal review with King & Associates Insurance, just log into tkinginsurance.com. Again, that's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates, royal treatment, great rates. We have a winner. Please, no more calls or text messages. We have a winner in our Name the Segment contest. We had a working title of News That Will Piss You Off. We thought that's a little rough. Let's not do that. But we were looking for ideas, and we got a lot of suggestions. And the winner is News That Will Light Your Fuse.
Yeah, thanks
like
to
that.
6268. I don't have a name, but you know who you are.
That's
News
right.
to light your fuse.
Congratulations. You are our You're our grand prize winner today, 6268. That's right. You came up with a great name for our segment.
What do they win?
Not a darn thing, because we have no budget but you'll get our great appreciation, a handshake and a slap on the back, an attaboy or girl, whatever the case may be. Congratulations, 6268. And forever and more, when you hear news that lights your fuse, you'll know that you are the author of that phrase.
Oh, they're listening still. They reply, woohoo.
I like that. News that will light your fuse.
Yeah, that's definitely my winner.
I mean, it gets the point across, but it's nice. It's PG. I like that.
And it rhymes. David, okay, they just informed us. David,
all
thanks,
right.
David.
Thanks, David. Thank you. You have forever. We have our thanks. Flight diverted to Portland. Have you heard this story? I mean, oh my gosh! You think you get on a plane, and you think they got the doors now are reinforced, so they lock the door, and nobody can get into the cockpit unless the pilots let you in. But what if one of the pilots goes rogue? And that's apparently what happened. In most planes, I mean, I've been in the cockpit of a couple of big commercial jetliners. There's a jump seat right behind the captain, and normally it's just there. And a lot of times, pilots, if they're trying to get back to home base, and they will sit in the jump seat in the cockpit. And just take a ride because they're pilots, Hey, we know this guy. He's got the uniform. He's got the badge. He's one of us, right? So an off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot in the jumper seat, apparently after they took off from Washington State, and I guess they were headed to Alaska, he reached up and tried to turn off the engines. It's an Embraer jet. It's a little commuter jet. But apparently he reached up and tried to turn on the part of the emergency system that would flood the jet engines in case there was a fire with retardant of some kind to put out the fire. Well, if you're flying along at full speed and you do that, then you basically snuff out the flame that runs the jet, and you're without engines. And by the way, who knows how difficult it would be to restart one of those engines once it's been filled up with the fire retardant. Man identified as an off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot has been arrested and charged with more than 80 counts of attempted murder. This according to the Seattle Times. It was Flight 2059 operated by Horizon Air from Everett, Washington to San Francisco. Reportedly a credible security threat related to an authorized occupant on the flight deck jump seat. The crew secured the aircraft without incident. Following appropriate FAA procedures and guidance from the air traffic control, the flight safety diverted to Portland. The event is being investigated by law enforcement and authorities. All passengers on board were able to travel on a later flight. And they are Alaska Air says they're very... they were praising the professional handling of the situation by the Horizon flight crew. One man under arrest, booked by the Port of Portland Police Department. Trying to get the details here. According to the Seattle Times, the man ultimately had been sitting in the jumper seat of the flight deck, just behind the captain and first officer, flying the Embraer E-175 regional jet. Holds about 80 people. As is custom for airline employees to hitch a free ride back to their home base if a seat is available, and sometimes they chat with the pilot and flight crew during their ride. They're not supposed to do that, actually. Once a plane takes off, the only communication that's supposed to take place in the cockpit is communication related to the flying of the airplane. Now, I think that rule gets bent a lot, but I mean, they're not really supposed to talk about anything else. The working pilot told Portland air traffic controllers, "We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit. It doesn't seem like he's causing any issue in the back. I think he's subdued." Somebody beat the crap out of him, I bet. Other than that, we want law enforcement as soon as we get on the ground and parked. According to journalist John Ostrower, the FAA then sent a broader security notice to U.S. carriers. Last night, a significant security event occurred on a U.S. air carrier involving a validated jump seat passenger attempting to disable aircraft engines while at cruise altitude by deploying the engine fire suppression system. The crew was able to subdue the suspect and remove him from the flight deck. The flight diverted and landed safely. The event remains under investigation by law enforcement. No other details will be provided at this time, the FAA bulletin said. That's scary. That's really nuts. 2 men arrested closer to home in Madison, Tennessee. Remember we had a train, what I called a train robbery the other day. An old-fashioned train robbery. I mean, the train was not moving. It was sitting on the side of the road, and they just basically went up there and broke the locks and started going to see what was in all those train cars, right? And I think last time it was tennis shoes.
Sneakers, yeah.
Sneakers, right, yeah. I guess sneakers is the more accurate term. I don't know that these shoes were for playing tennis. But one way or the other, the police got a couple of them, and there were some other things. I forget what it was, but there's something else that they were taking out of one of the cars. Now in Madison, 2 men have been taken into custody for allegedly burglarizing trains filled with vodka and Red Bull. Woo, that's a nice combination. Metro Police said they were tipped about the active burglary about 3:30 Friday at a train station at the end of Florence Avenue and Wellworth Street in Madison. Upon arrival, detectives located 2 individuals, later identified as Jason Potter and Ashton Ballantyne. According to the arrest report, Potter was seen sitting next to 30 cases of Svedka vodka, and Ballantyne was seen dropping 2 cases of vodka as the officers approached them. A total of 10 shipping containers have been broken into. Detectives looked into one of the train cars that was open, and they found that that's where they got the vodka. Several cases of Red Bull also found next to a shipping container. During questioning, they both allegedly admitted to breaking into several shipping containers and taking the vodka for purpose of drinking it. 30 cases.
Just a normal weekend.
I guess. Potter and Ballantyne were both taken into custody, charged with felony burglary of a motor vehicle. That's something else.
Got to say, it's kind of meant to be, though, with the vodka and the Red Bull both there together. You know.
Yeah, that's a drink, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like an energy drink.
Yeah,
a lot of people mix vodka and Red Bull to have the little cocktail.
It's a counteracting impacts.
Uppers and downers, yeah.
Uppers
Nothing
and downers.
Nothing can go wrong there.
No, that's a great plan, guys. 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've had a financial radio show on WTN for over 20 years. But before that, for about the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a big investment firm. The name of the game was selling and getting assets under management. Then I was introduced to evidence-based investing, driven by academic research and not the sales process. 2 big revelations. One was that investing in the stock market wasn't a gambling adventure. I had never thought about it that way. You know, think about it, when we invest, you're just gambling your money away and just throwing it into the casino. Well, investing in stocks is really just owning companies. And you think about some of the most successful people in the world are business owners, and you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. It allows you to be part owner of the most successful companies in the world. The second had to do with how you were investing in those companies. In my former role, I was taught that my job was to use my skills to predict the future. Oh, crystal ball, what stocks or market segments are going to do best in the near future? If you listen to investing news sources and investment advisors, you'll find that making predictions is the rule rather than the exception. One recent study shows that 93% of professional managers underperformed the market over the past 15 years in their selection of large U.S. stocks. And it was over 95% that underperformed with small companies. Did you know that you could be tremendously successful as an investor without predicting the future? I believe the first step is education. However, it can't be just any education. We will help you understand what you're doing with your investments, why you're doing it, and what the basics are behind how things work. Then we make recommendations. I want you to be completely confident before you do anything. If that sounds like a winning game plan, set up a free 15-minute phone call at any of our 10 offices around Nashville. Go to paulwinkler.com to schedule a call today.
More hostages have been released by Hamas. The U.S. reaffirms warnings on the conflict, and a train heist is solved quickly in Madison. Those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, now there are 9, count them, 9 different candidates for Speaker of the House, and we'll do that in the next hour, bring you the very latest. I'm just getting an update from Capitol Hill now during the commercial break. Congratulations to Tanya Tucker, Patty Loveless, and Bob McDill, a noted songwriter, as they have been officially inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, an event on Sunday. I mean, what a great line. I mean, Patty Loveless. I mean, I could listen to Patty Loveless sing all day long and twice on Sunday. Tanya Tucker, of course, a legend. Bob McDill has written some of the great songs in the history of country music. So congratulations to all three. And you get into a very, very elite club when you become a member of the Hall of Fame. It is now 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
It's 5 o'clock. I'm John Michael with your top stories. Sunny and 70 on Music Row. Weather and traffic coming up. For the latest from the Israel-Hamas war, here's Chuck Severston.
The Biden administration again warns other countries about getting involved in the war. ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers.
This is something that we've been hearing from the administration since day one about the potential for this to spread, for this to widen and end up having multiple fronts. And we heard that from the Secretary of Defense over the weekend, Lloyd Austin, talking about the concerns of the administration about a significant escalation. John Kirby, the national security spokesman, echoing that concern.
Kirby also repeating the current goals.
What we want right now is make sure Israel has the tools it needs to defend itself and to go after Hamas, and that humanitarian assistance keeps flowing.
Hamas has released 2 more hostages, Israeli women. A hostages for ceasefire deal isn't something that has a lot of attention or support from the Biden administration. President Biden says Hamas should release hostages first, then there can be talks about a ceasefire with Israel.
The concerns over fuel and supplies are increasing in the region. Scary moments in the midair.
The threat is now in the back of the airplane, so we're reduced on the threat level. We're going to check in with the flight attendant to make sure everything is running smoothly, but it seems like he settled down as soon as he, after one moment of going a little bit overboard, we put him back.
An off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot made some comment about "I'm not right" and then lunged and tried to pull the fire extinguisher buttons in the cockpit of an Alaska Airlines flight to San Francisco. Had he succeeded, it would have killed the engines. The flight had an emergency landing in Portland, Oregon. The pilot is now under arrest. 80-something charges for everybody who was on board that flight. The statewide manhunt continues for John Drake Jr., the son of Nashville's police chief, is wanted for the shooting of 2 police officers. They are both recovering at their homes. 2 people were arrested after police say they stole 30 cases of vodka from 10 train cars. Nashville police received a tip and responded to the track in Madison, Tennessee. Jason Potter and Ashton Ballantyne face a slew of charges related to the robbery. A key player in the Titans' defensive secondary has been traded. Kevin Byard is headed to the Eagles. He has 27 interceptions since being drafted by the Titans in 2016. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather coming up. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
We're simply the neutral.
Good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Hour number 3 of the drive on this 23rd day of October. let's get you home. Oh, it's been a beautiful day outside. Right now here in Bucolic, Watertown, 75 degrees. And I've made an executive decision that some point during this week, because we got like 10 days of great weather. I went and washed the truck. That's how good the weather's going to be.
Oh, you might have jinxed it.
Oh, no. I think I made a good decision. I think it's going to be good. It'll hold up for a few days. But one way or the other, I'm thinking I'm going to at least move the show out to the cabana for, I don't know, at least part of the show. Just, go stretch out. I'll tell you how nice it was today. The Bulldog did not want to come to work.
Yeah, she knows what's up. Yeah.
Normally I say, let's go to work, and she's all excited. But she's moody though right now. The Bulldog is very moody. she's we think pregnant, and so we don't know for sure, but she sure is acting like it. And so she's moody now.
Feeling all the feels.
I guess she is. She's a sensitive soul, that the little Bulldog is. But anyway, we'll go over and hang out with the Bulldog sometime this week. I'm going to do that for sure. And start out this hour by talking about the ongoing, never-ending, it's wearing us all thin, the continued battle to find a speaker so that the House of Representatives can once again become a functional institution. We still don't have one. If you've been following along, the last time, when last we checked in on the House of Representatives, we had just lost Jordan as a candidate. Jim Jordan could not get to 217 votes, and so he was advised by the conference that he should not submit his name for another round of voting, that it didn't seem likely. He started at 200, then he went to 199, then he went to 194, going the wrong direction. You need 217. I think depending on how many people are in the Congress and, voting that day, there's 235 normally, but sometimes, people are out for illnesses or family emergencies or whatever. And the magic number last week was 217. I think it may go back up to 218. We'll see. One way or the other, you got to have that many votes to become speaker. And nobody has gotten there. Scalise couldn't get there. Jordan couldn't get there. And now we have 9, count them 9, different candidates who are putting their name into the hat to become the next Speaker of the House of Representatives. Here's what I'm told. I have a little source, a little birdie up on Capitol Hill told me that they're meeting in about 30 minutes. That'd be about 21 minutes from now for a 9-candidate Q&A that will play like an early Republican candidate debate on Fox. Too many questions, not enough time to answer. And then, so that's behind closed doors. Love to be a little fly on the wall in there as 9 candidates make their pitch and answer questions. Tomorrow morning at about 9 Eastern time, 8 o'clock Middle Tennessee time, they will have nominating speeches and then the secret ballots. And they will keep having secret ballots until someone gets to 50% of the conference, which is 221. They need 50% of that. If you get to 50%, then you become the speaker designee, and then that poor soul has to go to the floor and see if they can get to 217 or maybe 218, depending on how many people are voting. And that will happen tomorrow afternoon. So we're now entering week number 3 without a Speaker of the House. And the first vote will take place sometime tomorrow afternoon, maybe during this program. We'll have an idea whether or not someone, whoever that nominee is, can get to the magic number to become the Speaker of the House. So we're on it. We got our best people on it. We've got sources plugged in all over the Hill, and they are reporting here to our studios in bucolic Watertown with all the information they have. So who are the 9 people? By the way, the filing deadline was yesterday at noon. You had to let people know you were going to run. And so we'll start with, some of these names are names that are not well-known political names unless they happen to be your congressperson. By the way, they're all men. Why can't we have a woman candidate? I mean, I think somebody suggested Elise Stefanik would be someone who might be able to, bring everybody together. I don't know, but she's not putting her name forward. Jack Bergman, Republican of Michigan, a retired U.S. Marine Corps lieutenant general, widely respected on both sides of the aisle for his national security experience. My hat is in the ring. I feel confident I can win the votes where others could not. I have no special interest to serve. I'm only doing this to do what's best for our nation and to steady the ship for the 118th Congress. We need a steady ship. I like this guy a lot. I would be completely comfortable with Byron Donalds as the speaker. Republican from Florida, announced his intentions to run for speaker on Friday. He's a member of the Freedom Caucus, a hardline conservative. He's getting support from some of his fellow congressional members from Florida. I am running to become the next Speaker of the House. We need to secure our border, fund our government responsibility, and advance our conservative agenda and expand the Republican majority. He's ready to get to work, he says. Tom Emmer is the majority whip. He's a Republican from Minnesota, running for House Speaker, has endorsements from McCarthy and a host of others. He's the highest-ranking Republican in the race at number 3. His job is to whip or count votes. He's considered a front runner in the race, but could face similar struggles that plagued Scalise. Hardline conservatives from the House Freedom Caucus have accused Emmer of not being supportive enough of former President Donald Trump, while centrist Republicans are unhappy he would not support a measure to expand Representative Patrick McHenry's interim speaker powers. From Oklahoma, Representative Kevin Hern, running for the next House Speaker, chairman of the Republican Study Committee. He's a loyal supporter of Trump, supporter of the former president in many of his efforts. It's pretty obvious that our delegation is looking for something to be different than what we've seen so far. I bring a different perspective that possibly anybody else could have running in this race. Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, former chairman of the Republican Study Committee, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. I've been humbled to have many members from across our conference reach out to encourage me to seek nomination for Speaker. Until yesterday, I've never contacted one person about this. I've never before aspired to the office. However, after much prayer and deliberation, I'm stepping forward now. Dan Muser, Republican, Pennsylvania. His campaign message, he says, will be focused on the politics of inclusion and trying to engage every member of the Republican conference. If there is a candidate who embraces that vision and has a better chance of getting 272 votes, I'll support him. I care about helping to create a team that works together and get results. Gary Palmer of Alabama, running to replace McCarthy as Speaker, as the chairman of the Republican Policy Committee. He's the number 5 Republican in the House. Member of the House Freedom Caucus, elected to Congress in 2014. Austin Scott, Republican of Georgia. He received 81 votes in the conference against Jordan after Scalise dropped out. An ally of McCarthy, outraged after the California Republican was removed. When I woke up this morning, I had no intention of doing this. It took me a long time to even get my wife to tell her to call our friends and be in prayer because we haven't done any preparation or any whipping or anything like that. Pete Sessions of Texas, longest-serving member of Congress who is running for Speaker so far. He began serving in 1997. He was defeated by a Democrat in 2018. He ran for a seat in the neighboring district and won, returning to Congress in 2021. Running because I know what it will take to move the Republican Party forward. It's 6 years as chairman of the House Rules Committee. I help usher a conservative agenda through Congress. It's time to get back to work for the American people. There you have 9, count them 9. The president, former president of the United States, Trump, could have some say about it. A source close to Trump world told the Washington Examiner that the former president would unleash hell on Emmer if he sought the speakership. Some people believe Emmer is the leading candidate, but a source close to the former president says he is anti-Trump and the Trump orbit will not let him hold the speaker gavel. So that doesn't bode well for Emmer. I mean, I can't imagine that the Freedom Caucus would go against the wishes of the former president. However, others are going to his route. So there's a lingering false narrative from the race. It's not going to work now to paint Emmer as if he's a never Trumper. So we'll see what happens if in that. Look, it's a mess. It's an unmitigated mess. I mean, if we I don't know how long it's going to take them to find somebody that can get half of the conference behind closed doors so that they can go forward on the floor of the House and cast a ballot. I don't know how that's going to happen. I mean, you got to go in there and wow them. And these people are not easily wowed. And they all have different things going on. You know, what this really is that there's always going to be, no matter who the candidate is, if it's a moderate person, there's going to be conservatives that are against him. If he's a conservative person, there's going to be moderates that are against him. And all it takes, you can only afford to lose 4 votes. If you don't get every vote but 4, you're not going to be the Speaker of the House. So I don't know how you find this magic person who's going to meet everybody's desires. Everybody's going to have to sign off on it. And really, quite frankly, I just don't think this thing's going to be decided very quickly. I think it's probably going to be maybe weeks before we get this thing resolved. And that's not right on any level. At some point, this Republican conference has got to come together, coalesce around someone who can lead them, and then get rid of that stupid rule that says that any one person can ask for a vote to vacate the chair. That's where the mistake was made way back in January. I don't know how you find that magic person who says the magic things that brings everybody together, the dynamic person who can be a leader of people who are already dynamic. I just, you know, I don't know. Every single member of Congress thinks that they make a perfectly awesome senator, and every senator thinks they make a perfectly awesome president. But I don't know how you find that one person that just goes in and wows a bunch of people who, in their own right, think that they could be speaker. So we'll watch it. Like I say, we have our sources out. We expect to have reports from within the conference on the show tomorrow, unless the vote is still underway in the floor of the House. So again, the very earliest that there could be a vote would be sometime tomorrow afternoon. In about 10 minutes, they will start the meeting where everybody gets to ask questions and have a few questions answered of the 9 candidates who now want to be Speaker of the House of Representatives. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. One of the things I love about Genesis Diamonds is they're always bringing in new and fresh jewelry and diamonds. So you're never going to see the same old things when you go there. With diamonds, they're always bringing in fresh cut stones straight from the world's best diamond cutters. Every size you can imagine, including the larger rare diamonds, 3 and 5 and even 10 carats. Wow. Nobody has diamond selection that can come anywhere close to that. And with designer jewelry, Genesis has partnered with all the top designers from New York and Los Angeles, and they are on the cutting edge when it comes to what's in style, what's hot, and what's new and different. The stuff you see at Genesis, you will not find at other stores, guaranteed. So it's a constantly moving, constantly changing inventory, always new selections. It's another reason why Genesis dominates the jewelry scene here in Nashville and why people drive for hours or more to be able to shop at this amazing store. They've got it all. Huge selection, uncompromising quality, unbeatable value, ironclad warranties, and white glove customer service. Genesis diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes as well. New Rolexes have just come in. Genesis, official jeweler of the Tennessee Titans, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual Radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Two more hostages have been released by Hamas, and the search continues for the man wanted for shooting two police officers. Those stories coming up at 5:30.
It is 25 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Let's get home safely, everybody. Take it easy out there on the highways and byways. And we'll keep giving you information and news you can news you can use. Or as we come up with a new segment we're going to be doing from this day forward called News That Will Light Your Fuse. I like that. I mean,
it rhymes. I mean, you can't go wrong there.
Thank you, David, at 6268 for giving us that recommendation. That's a good one. We'll be doing that going forward. I love that idea because there's so much news out there and a lot of it just chaps your butt, doesn't it? I mean, just really makes you angry. I want to look at the 2024 numbers again. Now, there is a new USA Today Suffolk poll that is out, and it's just chock full of good, interesting information. And so where they look at it, let's just let me go through this. There's several ways that they've looked at it. If you were to have a general election held today, and it was Trump versus Biden, USA Today says that would be a tie, each pulling down 41% of the vote. If you had a general election today and it was Trump versus Biden versus Kennedy versus West, then it would be a tie. Again, Trump 37, Biden 37, Kennedy 13, West 4. That's a very possible scenario. In fact, there could be another independent candidate enter the race, and which would split it up even further. If it were, and then they break this down, if it were a general election with Trump versus Biden versus Kennedy, guess what? Kennedy pulls more from Trump than he does from Biden, and Biden would win by 1. If it was an election involving Trump versus Biden versus West, Trump would win by 2, according to this Suffolk poll. So, I mean, when you start getting 3rd and 4 and 5, candidates that actually pull numbers, potential viable candidates, then this thing, the math on this gets incredibly interesting. It's entirely possible that the way this thing is shaping up, that the president of the United States will be chosen, and that person will have only gotten about 35% of the vote. I think that's entirely possible. By the way, for the Republican presidential nomination, it is still very much a Trump win. The same poll says that if they don't nominate people this way, but it is sort of an interesting metric to look at. Right now, Trump 58, DeSantis 12, Haley 11, Ramaswamy 3. His star is sort of falling quite a bit. Pence 1, Christie 1, Scott 3, Burgum 1, Hutchison 1. So the bottom line here is Trump leads all of the other Republican potential candidates by 46 points in this poll. Again, I don't know how you overcome a 46-point lead. If you're number 2, if you're DeSantis, and you're sitting at 12 and Trump is at 58, how do you overcome that? There is a battle that is developing for number 2, and I'll tell you why that might be important. Not that I'm predicting this, because everything I've seen suggests that, the more they throw at Trump, the more people want him to be their next president. Nothing that has happened, none of the cases that have been brought, none of the charges that are pending, none of these things have seemed to dissuade people who are Republicans from saying they want Trump to be their nominee by a large margin. But if something did, for some reason or another, and Trump was not going to become the nominee for one reason or another, I don't foresee right now, then, who would be your second choice is the question. And when you ask that question, it's almost always DeSantis, but Haley's making a move. And so Haley is I'd say her star is rising, and I would say Ramaswamy's star is sort of falling. I think people have had, I think he was interesting to people because he was so able to espouse his ideas. He knows how to lay out a line or two. But I think over time that some of his ideas have worn a little thin. And so Trump 58, DeSantis 12, Haley 11, and then it's like the also-rans. Ramaswamy 3, Pence 1, Christie 1, Scott 3. And there we have it. Again, I don't see anything changing on the Republican side of the equation. I still sort of can't believe that Democrats are going to keep going forward with Joe Biden. Every time the man steps on the stage for any kind of public event, he steps in it in one way or the other, or at the very least looks like a little lost puppy who doesn't know where to go, feeble, that he needs to be, led off the stage by his handlers, pointed in the right direction. While the world is on fire, and, we've got a war going on in the Middle East, and, tensions are really, really high in that region and in the entire world, really. Our president was at Rehoboth Beach, sunning himself on the beach, taking a nice beach weekend. Yeah, that's where he was. It is now 31 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk.
It's 5:30, and I'm John Michael with your top stories. Mostly sunny and 70 degrees. A full forecast and the latest traffic report are on the way in 5 minutes. 2 Israeli hostages, both elderly women released by Hamas, are said to be back in Israel. It follows the release of 2 American hostages. The Red Cross is saying it, quote, facilitated the release of 2 more hostages, transporting them out of Gaza, unquote. The Red Cross also says its role is to be a neutral intermediary and that they are prepared to help with any future releases. Jason Strazuso, a spokesperson for the Red Cross, spoke with ABC News.
That trusted partner that can move from point A to point B. And the Red Cross would not have any input or any influence on what those decisions are.
The U.S. has continued to say the release of all hostages is the top priority. The State Bureau of Investigation has a priority of finding John Drake Jr., the estranged son of the Nashville police chief, is the subject of a statewide manhunt.
This all happened Saturday afternoon outside of Dollar General on Stones River Road in Laverne. Police say officers Ashley Bolijak and Gregory Kern were responding to a report of a stolen car after license plate readers picked it up at the store. They say 38-year-old John Drake Jr. shot one officer in the groin and arm and the other officer in the shoulder after a struggle where Drake pulled out a handgun.
News 4's Ryan Breslin. Both officers are at home and recovering. The younger Drake has a lengthy criminal record dating back to the late 90s. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
It is 34 minutes now past the hour. Let me take you and talk to you a little bit about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Dr. Kevin Mitchell is my doctor over there. He could be your doctor as well. I can tell you he's done me a lot of good because I have gone through this therapy known as non-surgical spinal decompression on my back and on my neck, and has really made a big difference. Now they've got a new thing called the KT knee machine, which is sort of like spinal decompression for your knee. The idea is it gently elongates the knee and allows the healing therapy to reach deep within the knee. And a lot of people are saying that it really has helped them a bunch. So if you have any of these issues, tingling, numbness, weakness, back pain, maybe you've heard the term disc bulges or disc herniation or spinal stenosis. Well, they've got therapies that can help you a lot. Starts by making a phone call, 615-246-5009. You just call that number and set up an appointment and then go see Dr. Mitchell. If you're a new patient, you can take advantage of his $23 special. You'll get an exam, consultation, x-rays. You can bring in your own MRIs or x-rays if you have them. And then you get your first treatment, and that first appointment will only cost you $23. I mean, you got that on you, right? Well, then you'll be able to get half off spinal decompression and half off the KT knee machine going forward. Dr. Mitchell is a national leader in this therapy known as spinal decompression. He can help you Learn more by going to his website, painisbad.com. .39 now past the hour of 5 o'clock. We're into hour number 3 of The Drive. I'm Brian Wilson, and we're so glad you're with us on a Monday as we kick off the week and are trying to keep you apprised of things going on around the world, across the nation, up your street, and down your alley. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening down your alley if you live in Davidson County. They are looking for the son of the police chief. His name is also John Drake. He is John Drake Jr. He is 38 years old, described by the chief as being his estranged son. Said, I am shocked and deeply saddened to learn that my estranged son, with whom I've had very minimal contact over many years, is the suspect in a shooting involving 2 Laverne police officers. My thoughts and prayers are with the 2 officers, who I understand are now in stable condition at Vanderbilt. He says, despite my efforts and guidance in the early and teenage years, my son, John Drake Jr., resorted to years of criminal activity and is a convicted felon. He has not been part of my life for quite some time. He now needs to be found and held accountable for his actions today. I hope that anyone who sees him or has information about him will contact law enforcement. Boy, I'm telling you, this guy's got a record. Dating back to 2005, according to the criminal court clerk records from Davidson County, and that's all we have. I mean, there may be other stuff in other counties, but this is the Davidson County record. Are you ready for this? The guy has been criminally charged 59 times in Davidson County since 2005. That's a thug record is what that is. Now, look, I don't always agree with Chief Drake. I think, however, and I've said this before, I think he's a good man. I think he is a good man. And I take him at his word that he tried his very best. But, at some point, when children leave the nest, they're on their own. And, you can try as hard as you want, but sometimes you can't have any control over children once they leave the house. And he says that he's been estranged for a very long time. Court records show he's been criminally charged 59 times in Davidson County since 2005. Let me just go through some of this stuff because, it raises a lot of questions in my mind. First charged with theft of $500 or less back in 2005. That was on Halloween of 2005. A little less than a year later, his case was dismissed. On January 29th, he's found guilty of aggravated rape. And since then, according to CCC records, he's been found guilty of 3 different sex offender violations on the following dates. Wow. October 29th, 2015, May 9th, 2019, May 22nd of 2020. He's also been found guilty of the following charges on the following dates, as shown on the records. Driving with no driver's license in 2006. Domestic bodily injury, 2007. Aggravated burglary, resisting and evading arrest, again, 2007. Assault of domestic bodily injury and criminal impersonation. That means, does that mean he was trying to impersonate an officer? What does criminal impersonation involve? Impersonating, some kind of official person. That was in 2007. Possession or casual exchange in 2015. Well, I'm telling you, 59 times, and some of these are felonies and some of these are violent felonies. How in the world does someone get arrested 59 times and do no real hard time? According to this record, he couldn't have been in jail too long because the record is so replete. There are no gaps. Here is a little bit more information. Estranged son, that was from Channel 4. This is from Channel 17. The estranged son of Metro Nashville Police Chief John Drake Jr. Has an arrest history dating back to 2005 and is a registered sex offender. Among the other charges is a 2008 arrest for rape, which Drake Jr. was registered as a sex offender. The sex offender registry notes Drake pleaded guilty to a lesser charge and then registered as a sex offender in May of 2008. Yeah, so, I'm telling you, this guy is trouble. He is armed. He is dangerous. He's on the lam. He's already shot 2 police officers from Laverne, and thank goodness they're going to be okay, it looks like. They're both recovering and said to be in stable condition. They're recovering at home. And this all, quite frankly, makes me wonder, again, as I have on many occasions, let me just say it again, it seems to be another example of something that happens a lot in Davidson County, as far as I can tell, and that is that convicted criminals, they get plea bargains, they get special deals, they don't end up going to trial many times, they get pleaded out, and then some kind of lesser charge, and they don't do any real hard time, or if they do, they're not there very long. It makes me wonder, what's going on. Is it, I don't think it's law enforcement, because law enforcement, from what I can tell, they feel like they're doing their job. They say that their frustration for police officers that I talk to, and I talk to many of them listen to this program, they say, look, we put them in jail and they're out before our shift is over. And then, then they don't go to trial because the district attorney doesn't take a lot of cases to trial. And they end up, getting some kind of slap on the wrist or some kind of plea bargain and put back into the community, because we're in a community that believes in community policing, which is not policing at all, because if it was policing, they'd be arresting them and put them in jail. But no, we don't want to do that. That's not the solution. We don't want to put kids in jail. Well, you know what? I give them one. I might even give them two. But 3 strikes, baby, and you're out. You ought to go to jail and you ought to do some time, especially if it's a violent crime. And we don't seem to do that in Davidson County. We do it in other counties. Why is crime rampant? Why is it getting to be such a mean town? Because we don't put violent criminals away. We need a district attorney who's going to prosecute these cases in a way that, juries of their peers, look, everybody gets a trial and everybody gets a chance to defend themselves. You're not guilty until you are found to be guilty by a jury of your peers. But once that happens, let's put them away. And is that the judges? Is it the judges who are unwilling to do this? I don't know. All I know is there's an awful lot of violent people that don't seem to do much time behind bars, and they're out there, and they never come off the streets, as far as I can tell. They find some way to cut a deal or to find a way to do it with community service or something else. But the one thing they're not doing is they're not spending time in jail. And all I know is that if you have a community where people are tried for their crimes fairly, and if they are convicted, they are actually sent to jail, you have a safer community. This whole idea of soft policing and trying to find some alternative way to rehabilitate people. Okay, well, I haven't seen one that works yet. All I've seen is something that keeps dangerous people back on the street, making the community not safe. So, again, 59 arrests. I'm sorry. I don't know why somebody who has 59 arrests on their record is still out there on the streets. How in the world can that happen? By the way, another local story very quickly. The legal debate over the Covenant school shooters' rioting continues, with input coming from the Nashville mayor and Governor Bill Lee. As you know, last week, the appellate court heard arguments to the case after the trial court jury decided to allow the Covenant parents, school, and church to intervene in the case. The question is, should they have been allowed to intervene? And we're getting some comments from the mayor and from the governor. Here's what the mayor said. My primary interest is in making sure we don't do something to either increase the amount of trauma they're already experienced or have experienced, and that the community conversation on this stays focused on the things that they are advocating for, which includes better measures for gun safety. That's Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Governor Lee says there should be transparency. There should be some clarity about what exists. The family obviously have had a very difficult season and have very strong opinions and have weighed into that. It's really a decision of the courts. We will have to wait and see what they do. The Court of Appeals judges do not have a deadline for making a decision, which means it could take days, weeks, or even months. But if the appeals court decides that the parents and the children and the church do not have a standing to intervene in the case, then this case might be decided a lot quicker, and we might be able to see what's in some of those writings of the shooter, writings that are said to date back to the time when that person was a student at the church school. 50 minutes now past the hour. Hey, you know what? I love it when you see a company that has been out there for a while and they continue to grow, because you know what it tells you? Well, it's a successful company. And that's what we have with Eurofix, a successful company that continues to grow. I love watching a hometown business take off, and the folks over at Eurofix are now very proud to announce a 5th location, this one in Mount Juliet, on Mount Juliet Road. If you know the town, you know it's right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now in Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations where they repair thousands of cars each month. Really, literally, thousands of cars. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair. Why don't you call this number to set up your appointment? 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've had a financial radio show on WTN for over 20 years. But before that, for about the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a big investment firm. The name of the game was selling and getting assets under management. Then I was introduced to evidence-based investing, driven by academic research and not the sales process. 2 big revelations. One was that investing in the stock market wasn't a gambling adventure. I had never thought about it that way. Think about when we invest, you're just gambling your money away and just throwing it into the casino. Well, investing in stocks is really just owning companies. And you think about some of the most successful people in the world are business owners, and you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. It allows you to be part owner of the most successful companies in the world. The second had to do with how you were investing in those companies. In my former role, I was taught that my job was to use my skills to predict the future. Oh, crystal ball, what stocks or market segments are going to do best in the near future? If you listen to investing news sources and investment advisors, you'll find that making predictions is the rule rather than the exception. One recent study shows that 93% of professional managers underperformed the market over the past 15 years in their selection of large U.S. stocks. And it was over 95% that underperformed with small companies. Did you know that you could be tremendously successful as an investor without predicting the future? I believe the first step is education. However, it can't be just any education. We will help you understand what you're doing with your investments, why you're doing it, and what the basics are behind how things work. Then we make recommendations. I want you to be completely confident before you do anything. If that sounds like a winning game plan, set up a free 15-minute phone call at any of our 10 offices around Nashville. Go to paulwinkler.com to schedule a call today.
You know, this is the time of year where a lot of people are making healthcare decisions for the next year. So you should pay close attention to this next ad for Grace Point Healthcare, where they deliver medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you'll know how much it's going to cost before it's delivered. Now, they have these smart care plans. They start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, you can get a family plan as well. Now, this is where it could help. If you have a high deductible insurance plan, you marry that with a smart care plan, and you've got something that could save you and your family a lot of money over time. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
John Michael with your top stories. 69 and sunny on Music Row, and that trend should continue. The forecast and the latest traffic report are upcoming. All the latest on the war between Israel and Hamas with Chuck Severston.
The Biden administration again warns other countries about getting involved in the war. ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers.
This is something that we've been hearing from the administration since day one about the potential for this to spread, for this to widen and end up having multiple fronts. And we heard that from the Secretary of Defense over the weekend, Lloyd Austin, talking about the concerns of the administration about a significant escalation. John Kirby, the national security spokesman, echoing that concern.
Kirby also repeating the current goals.
What we want right now is make sure Israel has the tools it needs to defend itself and to go after Hamas, and that humanitarian assistance keeps flowing.
Hamas has released 2 more hostages, Israeli women. A hostages for a ceasefire deal isn't something that has a lot of attention or support from the Biden administration. President Biden says Hamas should release hostages first, then there can be talks about a ceasefire with Israel.
Officials from the Red Cross say they will continue in their intermediary role to bring more hostages home. The statewide manhunt continues for John Drake Jr. He's accused of shooting 2 police officers in Laverne. The case has gotten a lot of attention because Drake is the estranged son of the Nashville police chief.
Metro Police Chief John Drake also says that his thoughts and prayers are with those 2 officers. He says that his estranged son turned to crime many years ago, is a convicted felon, and also adds that he has not been a part of his life in many years. TBI says John Drake Jr. should be considered armed and dangerous at this time.
News 4's Ryan Breslin. The younger Drake has a long criminal record dating back to 2005. 9 Republicans are hoping to become Speaker of the House. There's some behind-the-scene meetings going on today. It is hoped there will be a floor vote as early as tomorrow morning. Here's Representative Pete Sessions from Texas.
We've only been through 2 people, and those 2 people necessarily had good, strong support, but could not require let's say the last 10 or 15 votes, and that is the daunting task.
It is unclear if any of the current candidates have the necessary 217 votes. A key player in the Titans' defensive secondary has been traded. Kevin Byard is heading to the Eagles. He has 27 interceptions since being drafted by the Titans in 2016. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. Glad you're here for hour number 4. We'll be here until 7 o'clock, and then we'll hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. Live and local, we are here on Super Talk 99.7 from 5 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, providing you with, the local perspective and personalities that you've come to be comfortable with. I mean, like Dan Mandis in the morning, and you got Chris Hand there coming up, and then Matt Murphy, who was out goofing off today. Really, let's be honest about it.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Yeah, I didn't know that you could take a day off to go play golf.
I can't see Murphy playing golf.
Yeah, we use air quotes.
Play.
He's playing golf. He's playing at golf.
Yeah.
I don't know. He may be a pretty good golfer. He was hanging out you talk about trouble. He was hanging out on the golf course with Rudy Gatlin. And that's
my.
trouble right there. Those two guys, by the time they get to the 18th hole, it's going to be all over.
No good can come from that.
No. The Gatlins have always asked me to come to play golf with them sometime. And, Larry and Steve and Rudy are friends of mine because we all come from Odessa, Texas. And I've never gone to play golf because basically I don't play golf. I've never.
That's a good
I
reason
played
not
one time in my life, and it was not a great experience. I hit an airplane.
What?
I was on a municipal golf course in Florida, and went out with my brother-in-law and father-in-law at the time, and they said, yeah, give it a try. So I didn't have, I'm tall. I didn't have the proper golf clubs or anything. I didn't do horribly. In fact, I made a couple of pretty decent shots that they all walked away going, beginner's luck, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But one time I hit the ball with a driver and it bounced off. We were in a municipal court right next to a municipal airport. And there was a Beechcraft, an V-tailed Beechcraft from the 60s. And I pinged it. I hit it with a golf ball, man.
It was sitting still when you hit it, right?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't
in
airborne.
motion.
No.
That's just making sure.
Yeah, that was my whole golfing experience. Never been back. I got ruined as a kid because I was for a while. My parents got transferred to Denver, and we lived in Denver for a short period of time, about 18 months. And while we were up there, the guy next door to us at the apartment complex, we lived in an apartment complex in Golden, Colorado. And the guy comes up, knocks on the door, knew that I was probably about 12 at the time. Said, hey, has your son ever caddied? And my dad said, no. Well, would he like to? And he said, I don't know, ask him. So I came to the door and said, would you like to caddy? I said, well, I've never done it, but I'd be willing to try. So the guy picks me up, takes me out to the golf course the next day. It's a Friday night, so there's Saturday. We go out and we do. This guy was one of those golfers, though. I mean, he bent a club, he threw a club. Ooh. He was an angry golfer. And honestly, at one time I was sitting, he asked me for a club and I handed him the club. And while he was getting ready to putt, the bag shifted. And kind of rattled. And he got really upset about that. And so then we go all 18 holes, right? And we get back home and he gives me $5.
Wow. All right.
I thought this wasn't worth it.
You did all of that for $5.
I mean, I used to make more money than that, polishing cars or washing cars or doing things like that. So, him to give me $5 for a full day out there where I had to listen to all his abuse. And then he said, you want to do it again tomorrow? And I stupidly said, I guess. So I did it for another $5. Oh, hardest $5 I ever earned.
There's a reason he was looking for a caddy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He probably alienated all the other 8 neighborhood kids.
That's probably what happened. Yeah, maybe so. Well, anyway. So I never really played golf beyond that one time when I sort of got talked into it. But, I think it'd be fun to hang out with Rudy and Steve and Larry.
You could drive the golf cart for them, maybe.
Yeah. Happy to do that. Your golf cart has arrived, sir. China has deployed 6 warships to the Middle East. I don't know what good can come of this. We got ships crawling all over the Mediterranean. I just saw a map that Fox put up over here on the monitor, and there are so many U.S. ships in the Mediterranean that they can't even put them all on the and label them. There's just too many. I mean, you got the strike group that goes with the USS Gerald Ford, which is an aircraft carrier, and then the U.S. Dwight David Eisenhower. And each of those aircraft carriers have, 10 or 12 ships associated with it and a submarine. So they're out there crawling around, it's a small, the Mediterranean, it's not that big as bodies of water go. And then you got a couple of Marine Expeditionary Units that have arrived in the Mediterranean, standing by in case they are needed. And then you add to that 6 warships from China. What could possibly go wrong? 45th Naval Escort Task Force from the People's Liberation Army Eastern Theater has been involved in routine operations at Oman. They left for an unspecified location on Saturday. It's the Zibo, a guided missile destroyer, the Jingzhou, a frigate, and the Quandaho, which is a supply ship. They don't do aircraft carriers in China. I don't think they have any. They've been, like the last thing you really need is having the Chinese out there, because they're bad actors. They cut people off. They don't follow the regular rules of order out on the open seas. But how in the world can you say no when we, the United States, are insisting on free passage through the South China Sea? If it's international waters, it's international waters, and they should be allowed to go where they want to go, I suppose, but I don't think good will come of it. What's going on with the other rest of the war? Apparently, we are being told that the Israeli president has confirmed that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, found a USB device, a key, with instructions for producing a cyanide dispersion device. It was found on the body of a Hamas operative who participated in the October 7th terrorist attack. And this is very concerning, of course. Does Hamas, Hezbollah, do they have access to chemical weapons, even if they're homemade? It was shocking. The situation that we're looking at now is instructions that were given on how to operate and how to create a kind of non-professional chemical weapon with cyanide. Oh Lord! The Israeli Defense Force the IDF has not gone into Gaza in a big way yet. They continue to bomb the crap out of it, and most of the people have moved to the southern part, down near what they call the Rafah Gate, and that's the gate that leads into Egypt. Egypt won't want to let people in, but they are letting some humanitarian supplies get in. Nobody's getting out, including the 600 or so Americans who are inside Gaza who desperately want to get out. They're not letting them out either. And that's a continuing spot of concern. We've been trying to work with our Egyptian allies, if we have any, to try to get those folks out of Gaza, just as we were working to get people out who wanted to come out of Israel and come back home. But that is not going so well. The defense secretary has issued prepared to deploy orders for more U.S. troops. I've placed additional numbers of forces on prepare to deploy orders as part of prudent contingency planning to increase their readiness and ability to respond quickly as required. Austin said he had activated the deployment of a terminal high-altitude area defense, a THAAD battery, as well as an additional Patriot battalions to locations throughout the region to increase protection for U.S. forces. Austin said in his statement, the decision came after detailed discussions with the president on recent escalations by Iran and its proxy forces across the Middle East. The steps were to bolster regional deterrence efforts. In other words, we want our people there as a deterrent to places like Iran, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon. Stay out of it. Don't take advantage of the situation. And, we have actually used our missile cruisers to take out cruise missiles that were fired from Yemen in the direction of Israel. But more people are now being put on standby, which says, be ready to go if we need you, so that they be ready to go very quickly. John Kirby seems to be the guy providing the best information about what's happening in the Middle East as far as we're concerned. Ask a series of questions today about the need for there to be a Congress, a functional Congress, which we now do not have, because, among other things, he said we need to replenish supplies that we have sent to others. Okay, here's what he said.
We also need to make sure we have appropriations to replenish DoD stocks. We have national security interests around the world as well that we have to meet. And we've provided an awful lot out of our inventory. We need to be able to replenish that.
Well, that's a great question. And, how much have you given? I mean, we've given weapons to Ukraine, and we've sent weapons to now Israel. And the real question is, do we have enough to meet our needs? Here's what he said about that.
My question is the state of those stockpiles right now, the state of where U.S. weapons stockpiles stand, with two wars sending now two different types of shipments on a regular basis towards two U.S. allies. How big is the concern that the U.S. is dangerously low on what it should have for its own defense right now?
Well, of course it's a concern. That's why we asked for that extra supplemental funding from Congress. Without getting into classified information, I can assure you and the American people that the United States military can continue to defend our national security interests all around the world.
Well, then you don't need the replenishment. Well, either you have what you need or you don't have what you need. I have a feeling that look, Biden opened up the spigots on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And now it's half empty. And now we've got this country's oil needs could only be met for 17 days. And that's if we were not in the middle of some kind of conflict that would consume, of course, more oil. And we've given away, or we've transferred weapons to Ukraine many, 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 many times. Now we're sending more and more stuff to Israel. What do we have left in the warehouse? What do we have that how long could we sustain some kind of conflict if we needed to? Well, we need to replenish, but we got what we need. Now we need to replenish, but we got what we need. One of these things is true and one of these things is not true. Tell me which one. And again, here's Kirby talking about the desire to get Americans out of Gaza. They're down near Egypt, and the question was asked, any movement toward getting Americans out of Gaza?
I wish I could tell you date certain, time certain. We want to get them out. We want to make sure that they have safe passage out. And we are working very, very hard, both with the Israelis and with the Egyptians, to get to that outcome. Right now, of course, you've seen some humanitarian assistance flow in, but we have not forgotten the plight of those hundreds of Americans that are on the other side of that Rafah crossing. We know they want to get home or get out, and we want to help them get out, and we are working on that very, very hard.
You've been working on that very, very hard for several days now. They have oftentimes gotten messages about specific windows when they could leave that fell apart. Is there any sense that working will end up with an outcome soon?
That's what we're working towards, Phil. I wish I could tell you for sure, but this is hard stuff.
It's hard stuff. Hard stuff. 21 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. One of the things we see as we get older is that our parents, our grandparents, they're getting older too, right? And so you find that maybe at a family gathering, you'll note it, that if somebody's having a difficult time doing the things that were once so easy, the things that were once day-to-day things in their lives now become more of a struggle. And it reminds us that they're approaching an age where they will need more and more help every day. Well, this is where assisted family care can help. They will connect you with a responsible, compassionate helper to assist you and your loved ones with their daily needs. Now, if your loved one happens to be a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could very well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care has years of experience in helping those in Middle Tennessee who qualify to get access to this benefit. You see, many veterans are eligible to receive up to 20 hours of daily living assistance each week at no cost to them. Not everyone is eligible, but if you're a veteran with wartime service, you may well qualify for the benefit for yourself or for your spouse. Now, I want to warn you, the application process is complicated, daunting, confusing. But the folks over at Assisted Family Care have years of experience in cutting through the red tape and can help veterans who are eligible for this benefit to receive it. They will connect you. They will get you going. Maybe you have a parent with wartime service. Why don't you reach out to the folks at Assisted Family Care? Assisted Family Care will be there for you. Visit assistedfamilycare.com or call this number, 615-833-9725.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual Radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
The latest on the war between Hamas and Israel, and we'll have today's closing money news. That's coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
26 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. Let's get you home safely. And, you can maybe pick up a little bit of information you can share with the family over dinner. And, boy, I'm telling you, it's been a beautiful, beautiful fall day. It is going to get cool tonight, but, I think we're in for about 10 days of really gorgeous weather.
Dare I say a little warm, too. Like, I think the highs are going to be several degrees above the average for this time of year.
I like that. And I love what they call Indian summer. Can we say that? I don't know if we're not allowed to say that anymore.
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay, so we'll call it Native American summer.
Okay.
Indigenous people's summer.
There you go, yeah.
It just doesn't have the same ring, does it? But, I mean, I really do love it when it's really nice in this time of year. And, I'm just a sucker for warm days and cool nights. That's perfect. Fall is my favorite time of year.
Yeah, mine too, but I'm ready for it to be just a little nippy, I don't want to get hot. I don't want to put the long sleeves on and then I'm warm in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I know. Anyway. I spent some time doing work in the yard, and I lost my car keys. I lost an entire set of keys. I don't know where they went. I had them. I know exactly the last time I moved my pickup truck, which you have to have the keys to move the pickup truck, and I moved it, and then sometime after about 2:00 in the afternoon on Saturday, I lost them. And I don't know where they are. I cannot find them for love nor money.
Have you checked the freezer?
No, I didn't check the freezer. No, I've heard that's something that happens. I mowed the yard. I did what I thought was maybe the final mowing over in part of the yard, and I had them in my pocket then, I know.
Uh-oh.
And I think maybe they fell out somewhere in the yard, and I walked it and walked it and walked it, and I can't find it.
You'll find it. You just get out there and mow again. You'll find it.
Swap. Oh, there it is.
Guarantee
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
I'll send them sailing about a quarter mile with my mower. Yeah. I don't know where they are. So what I did on Sunday, I had to change all the locks.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, that's no good.
Well, you're sure to find the keys now since you've gone through all the trouble.
Gone to all that trouble. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. If anybody finds a set of keys in Watertown, let me know. They're mine. I know. I know when I last had them. And the only thing I did was mow the yard. So where else could they be?
Have you checked on the lawnmower itself?
I did. I pulled up the seat on the lawnmower. I looked to see if it had fallen down inside there. I've checked there. I've checked in the garage where I store the lawnmower. I've checked everywhere. I mean, I'm racked my brains trying to figure out where those kids. They're in the yard somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
I need to get a metal detector. Somebody come out and metal detect. I bet it's 2 acres. Where it could be anywhere.
Might take a while.
Might take a while. And you know what? It's not like, you look across the yard and you can see something that just stands out on a newly mowed yard because there's leaves everywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's to spot something that's odd on the lawn is not easy when there's, it's covered with leaves. So I don't know. I probably never will find where those dang keys went. And I'm not very good at installing locks. I learned that.
Struggle, did you?
Oh, it was a struggle. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought I've done it before, but I finally figured it out. But now it's a lot more elaborate process to open the door than it was before.
You got to have the right.
You got to
hold your mouth,
push a button and turn the knob to get out.
You got to lock people in instead of locking them out.
I don't know. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But again, anybody in bucolic Watertown who finds a set of Ford truck keys, let me know.
Or your truck will just disappear one day and you'll know someone else found them.
And this, I know. Now I've given it away. Now somebody's going to, I found them and look. Oh, look, they start the truck.
Come with a free truck.
That's right. 30 minutes now past the hour at 6 o'clock.
It's 6:30. I'm John Michael with your top stories. Sunny and 73 degrees on Music Row. The forecast and the latest traffic report are upcoming. More hostages have been released in the Israel-Hamas war. Chuck Severston has more.
Two Israeli hostages, both women, released by Hamas. ABC's Inez de la Cuetera in Jerusalem.
Protests being held over the weekend, pressuring the Israeli government to try and do more to secure these people's release. We know the American government has been involved. They've said that it's a top priority for them to bring American hostages home, and we know that Americans are among the hostages. So 2 Americans released over the weekend, now 2 Israelis released today.
The White House says it will not dictate terms to the Israelis about how they should move forward with military action against Hamas. National Security spokesman John Kirby.
We're not in the business of dictating terms to them, and we're certainly not going to be in the business here from the White House of previewing any future operations one way or the other. That would be inappropriate.
Concerns over a potential wider war. Israeli air attacks hit targets in the occupied West Bank, Syria, and Lebanon, and traded fire with Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group at its northern border. Concerns about the war spreading.
And officials from the Red Cross say they will continue as a go-between to try to free more hostages. With today's closing money news, here's Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks wobbled to a mixed close to start the week. The Dow plunged 191 points. The Nasdaq rose 35 and the S&P gave up 7. It's a big week for earnings among the companies we expect to hear from. Some tech giants, including Facebook's parent company, Meta, Google's parent, Alphabet, and Amazon. Chevron is buying Hess Corporation for $53 billion. It's the second buyout among major oil producers this month. As prices surged, and it comes less than 2 weeks after ExxonMobil said it would acquire Pioneer Natural Resources for about $60 billion. Crude prices are up 9% this year. They're hovering at about $90 a barrel. The United Auto Workers strike against the Big Three is getting bigger. The union now says about 40,000 workers are walking the picket lines now that it's added a plant in Sterling Heights, Michigan, which makes Ram pickups for Stellantis.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are on the way. I'm John Michael, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Over there, they got a guy named Dr. Kevin Mitchell. He's my doctor, and he can be your doctor. He's the nation's leader in this thing known as non-surgical spinal decompression. It's a therapy that can help you if you have problems with your back, your legs, your arms, your neck. Maybe you have a numbingness or a tingling. Maybe you've heard the term disc bulging or disc herniation or spinal stenosis to describe your situation. All of those things can be made better through the application of non-surgical spinal decompression. So listen, why don't you do the thing that I would recommend? Make a phone call. I mean, why would you wait? Especially when, as a new patient, your first appointment is only $23. That's right. You get an exam, a consultation, x-rays. You can bring in x-rays if you have them or an MRI. Then you'll get your first treatment and start on the pathway to feeling better for only $23. You got that on you. What have you got to lose? $23, you get a treatment, and you see what it's all about. You'll meet Dr. Kevin Mitchell, as I mentioned, a nation's leader in spinal decompression. They got this thing called the KT knee machine. It's sort of like spinal decompression, but it's aimed at healing your knee pain. It can gently elongate the knee so that the healing therapy can get deep within the knee to make you feel better. $23 again with your first visit is your first appointment is $23. Learn more by going to their website, painisbad.com. It is 39 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and this is The Drive. Let's get you home. I mean, if you're not already home, you know, and I understand there are some traffic areas that have been problematic. One of those days where you, as my friend Ken Weaver says, you got to pack your patience. You know, maybe I shouldn't do this now because, you know, you need a lot of patience and you're probably already on edge because of the traffic situation. But we've decided that we're going to have a new segment that will come up, you know, every once in a while when we have a series of stories that, well, just kind of chap your butt, you know, just you read and when you hear the story, you go, that angers me. And we were looking around today for, you know, I mean, I wanted to say news that will piss you off. And I decided, no, that's a little coarse. We don't need to be that coarse. So, you know, what else can we come up with? And one of our listeners, David came up with the idea of the news that will light your fuse.
Yep.
Right?
I like it.
And, you know, I liked it a lot. And so, you know, we decided that was our winning entry. And then I asked Chris, because I say, Chris, we need people, some people call them cheap sound effects. But no, quite frankly, I'm insulted when people say that. That we don't do sound effects. We do sound design.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, people win Emmys for sound design.
That's true.
That's right. Not on the radio generally, but I mean, you know, still, you know, sound design is, you know, we mix some things together to sort of separate these stories. So here is, for the very first time, we should have a little drum roll, please. Do you have a little drum roll there for me?
Yep. Hang on. Let's see. All right.
Here is the sound design that Chris came up with for News that will light your fuse. You ready? 1, 2, 3. I want to listen to it one more time.
I can see the steam coming out of his ears.
Yeah. It's like a cartoon guy, where the steam comes out of your ear and it's like a steam whistle.
Yep.
Not
Turns
that
bright
anybody
red.
has. That's right. I love that. And so, we will do the stories that will, news that lights your fuse, and we will intersperse on occasion. Oh, God. Here's our first entry. Feds warn. Oh, who in the world, didn't see this coming? If only there had been somebody who had sent up the flare and said, "Watch out, this might happen. Watch out, we don't know who's coming across our southern border." If only there had been one person. Feds warn that Hamas and Hezbollah could be crossing our southern border. I'm not talking about the southern border of Gaza. I'm talking about the southern border of the United States. Federal officials are warning that members of Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Hezbollah could be crossing through the southern border, according to an internal October 20th memo exclusively obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation. San Diego Field Office Intelligence Division of Customs and Border Protection sent the memo warning that due to the war between Israel and Hamas, there could be encounters of terror-related individuals who are seeking to travel to or from the Middle East via the southern border. Hamas, PIJ, the Hezbollah, all of which are U.S.-designated terrorist organizations, have been committing attacks on Israel. And the San Diego Field Office Intelligence Unit assesses that individuals inspired by or reacting to the current Israel-Hamas conflict may attempt to travel to or from the area of hostilities in the Middle East via circuitous transit across the southwest border of America. Foreign fighters motivated by ideology or mercenary soldiers of fortune may attempt to obfuscate travel to or from the U.S. or to or from countries in the Middle East through Mexico. And we know this is already happening. Border Patrol encounters with illegal aliens on the terrorist watch list at the southern or northern borders hit 172 in fiscal year 2023, up from 98 in the previous year. The latest warnings of possible terrorist encounters say federal border authorities should look for indications that include seeing military-age males, carrying military gear, lone travelers tied to the region, according to the memo. And there are questions of interest, such as questions related to individual personal or familial associations with either Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, or similar groups. The Border Patrol was asked for a comment on this by the what do they call it? The Daily Callers News Foundation, but they did not respond. Now that's a story that will that's news that will light your fuse. Our next story, the CDC has put out a survey. They do it every year, really, the Centers for Disease Control. They want to know whether young people are smoking or vaping, and it's the annual taxpayer funded survey on youth tobacco. But they're asking about things other than that. This is distributed to schools all over the country by the Centers for Disease Control so they can get some kind of survey to find out how kids, are they smoking more, are they smoking less? They want to know what they're doing, but they're asking questions that have absolutely nothing to do with the use of tobacco or vaping or anything like that. In 2020, changes were made to include questions asking if any students identified as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or something else, according to documents from the White House Office of Management and Budget. In 2023, however, the survey went even further and asked students about transgenderism and whether they feel in alignment with their biological sex. Some people describe themselves as transgender or non-binary when they think of or feel about their gender as different from their sex assigned at birth. Do you identify as transgender and or non-binary? There is concern that this important survey that essentially informs the federal government's understanding of the issues and drives its policy surrounding youth smoking may be exploited for other purposes, perhaps to the detriment of ultimate integrity. Whether the controversial social goals are appropriate to be part of an expensive taxpayer survey on youth tobacco may strike some as closer to an appeasement of favored special interest groups than the genuine pursuit of sound scientific data, wrote Michael Chamberlain, director of Protect the Public's Trust. One of the questions reads as follows: I am not sure yet or questioning if I am transgendered and or non-binary. Another question explains the definition of sexual orientation before requesting that students identify their romantic preferences. Sexual orientation is a person's emotional, romantic, and or sexual attraction to another person. There are many ways a person can describe their sexual orientation and many labels a person can use. Which of these options best describes your sexual orientation? Oh my gosh. Wow. Not appropriate, not the place, not the time or place, and certainly not under taxpayer expense. Way out of line. News that will help you blow a fuse or light your fuse, one way or the other. I'm telling you, that just angers me. It makes me angry beyond belief. I'll move on. Those are the only examples I have for today. But Chris, thank you so much. This will come in handy. It'll get its own button.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
In economic news, very quickly, while we have time winding down, the analysts are now wondering whether their year-end forecasts are correct, because economists and the Federal Reserve officials have predicted that the U.S. economy would be sputtering right now. Well, it seems like it's sputtering, but not in the way they wanted it to sputter. They think that the economy is still superheated in some ways. I mean, look, I got stories here that talk about how Americans are burning through their savings because they can't make ends meet, and they're going through all of the money they had stuck back. I got a story here about how many people are missing car payments, in another ominous sign for the economy. Record number of subprime borrowers are behind in their auto loan payments by more than 60 days. The rate hit 6.11% in September, but they're saying that before it's all over with, they expect that it will hit 10%, meaning people can't make their car payments because the economy is so sucky, but not sucky enough. You know, they wanted the economy to deteriorate to the point where they could stop raising interest rates, because they think of the two evils, inflation and higher interest rates, inflation is the more difficult thing to contain. But now the question is, have they done enough, or do they need to raise interest rates even higher in order to bring down inflation? That's the way it works. In this weird world we live in, you have to make the economy worse before you can make it better. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, let me tell you about the folks over at USS, United Structural Systems. Good people that give you the kind of advice you need if you think you have a foundation or a waterproofing issue. You have, doors that stick, or walls that are cracked, or concrete that is not level anymore. That's all the kinds of things that they can help you with. And I want to tell you, the people have had rave reviews of working with USS. I mean, you don't ever want to have to face these things, but if you have to face them, USS is the company you want to have by your side. Here's what Jerry in Hermitage said. It's the best crew I've ever worked that has ever done work on our house. Best I've ever seen. Very professional. They did an excellent job. Jeffrey said the service was A+++. Constance said it was an excellent experience. They put me at ease with the whole process. Gloria said hats off for their excellent work. Very pleased with the work they did. They did not leave a mess around to be cleaned up, and actually, you could never tell they were ever there. Listen, they'll come to your house, they'll assess your situation, they'll give you their best advice. You don't pay a penny until the job is done, and you are completely happy. USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com, or call this number, 615-488-7855.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've had a financial radio show on WTN for over 20 years. But before that, for about the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a big investment firm. The name of the game was selling and getting assets under management. Then I was introduced to evidence-based investing, driven by academic research and not the sales process. Two big revelations. One was that investing in the stock market wasn't a gambling adventure. I had never thought about it that way. Think about when we invest, you're just gambling your money away and just throwing it into the casino. Well, investing in stocks is really just owning companies. And you think about some of the most successful people in the world are business owners, and you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. It allows you to be part owner of the most successful companies in the world. The second had to do with how you were investing in those companies. In my former role, I was taught that my job was to use my skills to predict the future. Oh, crystal ball, what stocks or market segments are going to do best in the near future? If you listen to investing news sources and investment advisors, you'll find that making predictions is the rule rather than the exception. One recent study shows that 93% of professional managers underperformed the market over the past 15 years in their selection of large U.S. stocks. And it was over 95% that underperformed with small companies. Did you know that you could be tremendously successful as an investor without predicting the future? I believe the first step is education. However, it can't be just any education. We will help you understand what you're doing with your investments, why you're doing it, and what the basics are behind how things work. Then we make recommendations. I want you to be completely confident before you do anything. If that sounds like a winning game plan, set up a free 15-minute phone call at any of our 10 offices around Nashville. Go to paulwinkler.com to schedule a call today.